Shalom, Israel, and happy Sabbath to you. This is Brother Yahweh bringing you world news according to Bible prophecy. Last week, I made a video, and I told you who I was going to bring to shame or bring the truth on. They blocked that video for a whole week, and throughout the whole week, I've tried to get that video shown by changing certain things and deleting certain things, and still they kept blocking it. So what I'm doing now is I'm redoing the video that I did last week, and I'm renaming it. And also the videos that I had on there, I'm just not going to show it, but I will talk about it. And I think one of the reasons that they blocked it was because I showed Lil Nas X video, Call Me By Your Name, but that video reflected this guy here. It reflected this guy, the lifestyle of him that I read out of a book, which I will do again. Now, I won't even call this guy's name just so they don't block this video. But we do know there was no J's when the Messiah was here. There were no J's, so they could not have called him J-U-S-U-S. Since I'm trying to be real careful, I'm going to change his name for the sake of this video. And I'm going to call him the Great Houdini. That's the best name I can give. So when you hear that name, you know that I'm talking about this guy. Okay. So, and when you speak against this guy, I'm starting to realize, I guess I was a little hard on the video last week because the name that I was calling him. You become an enemy of the state when you speaking too much against the Great Houdini. You become the enemy of the state. So I'm gonna do the same as I did last week. Go through all these, go through some scriptures. I'm gonna show who we were, who the Most High's people are, and what our forefathers did, and how we fell, how we came to this curse, and the other gods that we started to follow under King Solomon. And then I'm gonna go into the Great Houdini's life that you're actually following or worshiping. Because the Messiah, his name is Yeshua. The Messiah was not blonde-haired and blue-eyed. Okay? When we fell, we were forced to worship other gods. And Esau, which is the same with this Great Houdini, by baptizing us in slavery, forcing us to worship their God. Now there's penalties. There's penalties only to us. Okay, because we are a separate race of people. We were. And that's why, as I read the scriptures, you will see why we get punished so much. Why we get why we used to get hung all the time. Now they blowing our brains out. Why we always at the bottom in every society. Why we went through slavery. You remember that statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had? That was a timeline that we were served as slaves to all the nations, all the way down to now. I think you'll understand it as I go through these scriptures. So let me get started. I'm going to start with Deuteronomy 7 and 6. Let's see. Deuteronomy 7 and 6. There's a penalty when you worship other gods. And we've been worshiping the Great Houdini for hundreds of years now. since what? Even before slavery, because under King Solomon, with that demonic star, we started worshiping other gods, and that's when the Most High got upset. But let me get into the scriptures. Deuteronomy 7:6. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So of all the nations that the Most High made, he created a race to him. We were supposed to give the teachings of the Most High to the world. We was above everybody. The world was supposed to be as it is in the heavens. So instead of worshiping holidays, we would have been worshiping holy days. As it is on earth, so shall it be in the heavens. And he needed a race to do that. So he looked at us in Egypt when we were slavery in Egypt, and he created us just like he did the lamb out of all the four-legged beasts. The lamb he created strictly for him. That was his love. The dove, of all the fowls of the air, he created the dove. That was his favorite. The Hebrew Israelites is the Most High's favorite of all the nations, and this caused in Psalms 83, it caused a great jealousy. And eventually the nations came against us, but the Most High didn't allow it until we kept serving other gods. We kept sin after sin. The sin got great. Then the king starts sinning. The king caused the people to sin. These were our ancestors. But I'm going to go through the scriptures and you will see. Now go from Amos 3:1. Let's go to Amos 3:1. Amos 3:1. Here is the word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which are brought up from the land of Egypt. You see, this is talking to a particular race of people, a nation of people, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. See, so all the races that the Most High had created, he only dealt with and he only talked to the nation of Israel through Moses or through the kings like David. We're the only race of people that had a God that we can actually talk to and hear from. The other nations didn't have that. That's why there's such a great jealousy in the land then, and that's why we're so hated now, because we belong to a God that we can actually talk to and get an answer back. So Esau taught us to worship their God that Esau founded in the land of Canaan when Esau and Jacob grew up and he lost his birthright. He went to the land of Canaan where the giants had daughters. And this is where Esau mixed himself with that bloodline. And see, this is why they think the way they do, and that's why they have such a great hate for us. From then, thousands of years ago, all the way up until now. And the reason why it's been so long is because they know that the next kingdom we are in charge of. That's why there's a great awakening for us to wake up to understand who we are. It's like a government structure for the next kingdom. And this is what the Most High is going through. He's still searching for the 144,000 for when he come back to make war with the nations. But in the next kingdom, that government structure is 12 gates. 12 gates represent the 12 tribes of Israel. During that time, and this is coming, according to the tribe that you are, that's the gate that you will enter in every Passover. Those that are not within, because we're going back to Israel. You're going to have a structure of people in Israel, like you would say, elders and people under the elders. You got the Messiah, and the structure goes down. In this next kingdom, and all that will live outside of Israel, we're going to come together every Passover, every year, from wherever they are living. And you're going to come through that gate from the tribe of Judah or Benjamin, whatever tribe you are. That's the gate that you come through. This is what's to come. This is the good news that a lot of these Israelite camps are trying to teach Christians that are still in the matrix. And I'm not talking about every Christian. I'm talking about Israelites that's calling themselves Christians, and they cannot see their way out of that matrix. There's a lot of camps out there. The Most High is doing all of that, waking us up the best way he can, because there are a lot of camps out there that really shouldn't be, because I feel that they just too doggone young. And their mouth is too foul. You can't get people to follow you like that. Let's go to the next scripture, Joel 2:27. Joel. Joel 2:27. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else. And my people shall never be ashamed. Now that's good. Once you wake up to understand that, that's good. That's good to know that we don't have to be ashamed of nothing, because we have been put down and called all kind of names by Esau. Before slavery, during slavery, and after slavery, called all kind of monkeys, dogs, the N-word, and they still call us that, and they still think we stupid. Isaiah 45:4. Isaiah 45:4. Get this out of the way. Forty-five, 44, 45. 45:4. For Jacob, my servant's sake, and Israel, mine elect. So when you read in the book of Revelation, it talk about his elect. The elect is Jacob. Jacob gave birth to the 12 tribes of Israel. So the elect is the Israelites, not the church. It has nothing to do with the Catholic Church or Sunday Church and all of that mess, all of the lies that they told us all of these years. So you Christians been lied to. But I'm going to show you your great Houdini, because you refuse to let that guy go. You refuse to let him go. And there's punishment that comes with that. You know, you have to come out of it. Come out of her, my people. I have even called thee by thy name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. Called thee by thy name is the Israelites. That's what we are. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. Jacob's hip was broke when he fought with the angel. So Jacob walked a certain kind of way. It was a curse that was given to his children. He walked a certain kind of way. Now think back, you older people. Think back at some of the old movies you saw back in the 70s. One in particular, the Superfly. Do you remember that walk he had? Like he got a broke hip. That's how we've been walking like that for years. I shouldn't call it a curse, but it's an identity mark from Jacob having his hip broke. You show me any other way to walk with a broken hip. You can be walking just like that. And we've been walking like that for years. You Negroes, pay attention to your children, especially if they're teenagers. Don't say anything, just watch them. And they'll have that same walk. It's just in us. Mexicans got it too. And some Indians. Puerto Ricans, that's the 12 tribes of Israel. That's a mark. That's how you know who we belong to, not the Great Houdini. That's by force. Psalms 37 and 26. Psalm 37. Now, since I'm in the book of Psalms, Psalms 37 and 26. Since I'm in the book of Psalms, and I told you about how the nations came to get against us and how they got so jealous, Psalms 83. I'll read it for you right quick so I can back myself up. Psalms 83, verse 1. Keep not thy silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. O lo, thy enemies make a tumult. Enemies are all nations outside of Israel. And they that hate thee have lifted up the head. That's jealousy. All the nations led by Esau. Esau is the Caucasian race. And they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel. They come into a meeting in secret against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Today is called the United Nations. This was thousands of years ago in the book of Psalms. Well over 2,000 years ago. And this is out of the book of Psalms. So they took counsel then. Now you understand why they always had these UN meetings. You notice there's nobody in these UN meetings that represents the 12 tribes of Israel. Think about the nations that's the leaders that goes to these United Nations meetings. I think they have it every year or every 2 years or something like that. Or they'll call a special meeting if a nation is not doing right. You know, like Bin Laden and the other nation, Iraq, when they had to come together and make a decision on that country. And against thy people and consulted against thy hidden one, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. See, at this time, they making war against us, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. That's all nations coming together to come against us. And once they put us in slavery, they will change our minds in the way we think. Okay, this is the great trick. This is the great Houdini. This is how they did it. And for hundreds of years, you're talking about killing off people, beating them, and taking children from their parents, taking some of the Israelite camps, not camps, but some of the tribes to other parts of the world. That went on for so long, we forgot who we are. So that's why we call ourselves Puerto Ricans, Jamaicans, Cubans, Hawaiians, American, French, Italian, Greeks, Rome. We were called by nations. All of mankind was called by nations. Okay. The nation of Ishmael. That's the Saudi Arabia over in that area. Edom. That's the Caucasian race. Edomites. Or Esau. The nation of Israel are the 12 tribes. You got the nation of Japhet, which is the Asians, and on and on. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. Then it goes on to talk about the different nations that came together. But notice the first nation that's in the scriptures. The tabernacles of Edom is the first nation. And then it goes on. Let me prove that. I don't want to lose my mark. See if you can see it. The tabernacles of Edom is the first nation that you see. Right. See. Right. See the tabernacles of Edom. Ishmaelites, that's Ishmael. Okay. Moab, Hagarenes. You see, Esau led the charge to come after us. Jealousy. After he lost his birthright. Okay, now let's go back to, what was that? Psalms 37:26. He is ever merciful and lendeth, and his seed is blessed. That's Israel's seed. He's talking about the Israelites. Let's go to Matthew 15:21-28. Matthew 15. I want you to listen to this story. I want you to listen, because Catholics and Sunday doctrine got this story so twisted because they do not understand Paul's writings at all. 21-28. Then Jesus went thence and departed into the coast of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a woman of Canaan. Remember, Canaan was the area where Esau went and multiplied. That's where he had 4 wives in the land of Canaan, but those daughters. Now, Ishmael had a daughter also. So he married one of them too, which is the Middle Eastern. The other women that he married and had children by came from the Canaanites. And they wanted to keep their bloodlines pure. Amalek, let's see, his son's name was Amalek and Zepho. These 2 particular sons, when they became rulers and became an army, when they started to have military, because they were helping some black nations defeat other black nations of a particular area. Eventually, they had a military, and a military grew under Zepho. I hope I got the name right. Zepho and Amalek. It's one of those 2 sons. Now, Amalek bloodline promised his father Esau that he would keep the bloodline pure. That bloodline today runs through England. Those Germans that you see over in England, making you think they always been there. King James was black. He was not white. And he never had sex with his mother because King James' mother was in prison when he was 2 years old. Okay. England wanted to blame her for poisoning his father. She was in prison for 8 years, and finally they decapitated her head. So how, I don't know where that story come from. I think Dick Gregory, whatever his name is, the old fella, he gone now. I don't know where that rumor come from that he had sex with his mother. Now, the white King James probably did, but the brother didn't. He had several degrees, and he was raised separate from the other nations as he was coming up. I think he was sat on 3 thrones. He was the only king to sit on 3 thrones. I know it was, I don't want to get it wrong. England, Scotland, and there's another one. England, Scotland, there was another one. And after that, Scotland and England never could get along. So him and the Catholic Church never saw eye to eye. So the Black King James got 70 elders together to make this book as one. To make that book as one. Because there were a lot of different books. And the Catholic Church was coming with their theology about God and how things should be and who to worship and this and that. So once they got a story together to kill King James, the Catholic they didn't change the book, but they went in and they took some words and changed them to where when you read it, the Jesuits, when you read it, you would think of the white race. They went in, changed all the identities, changed the color and the race of all the characters in the Bible, and every last one of them were all Black and all Israelites. And under the Catholic Church and under Sunday doctrine, what is this it doesn't matter doctrine, it's being hidden from you, because it even says in scripture they will think that they change the faces of the judges. The judges are the Israelites, because we're going to judge the angels eventually for the evil that they've done. So Esau, Amalek's bloodline, went in and changed that. And here's a book. Eventually, I'm going to read out of this book. And you can get this book. And you can see all the changes that were made, and the original name, and the Most High's name is also in that book, because it's not Yahweh or YHWH. That's the Tetragrammaton or whatever name is. His name is Ahia, and it's in that book, and it's in other books as well. Where was it? 21. And behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast, and cried unto him, saying, have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with a devil. But he answered her not. He didn't say a word to her. And his disciples came and besought him, saying, send her away, for she crieth after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. It is so clear that the Messiah came for the Israelites. Now, let me clarify that. At that time when he came, it was only Benjamin and Judah left. The other 10 tribes left in 721 BC. That was before the Messiah. He came through the tribe of Judah, the Messiah. Judah are the Negroes here in America. That tribe came out of Africa after we ran into Africa. They ran out of Israel into Masada. They killed us all up in Masada. It took 7 years to get us. Over millions of us came over into Africa, and that's how Africa got populated. The majority of Africa is nothing but Israelites. A lot of them don't even know it because of Islam and Catholicism. Over 80% of Africans are nothing but Hebrew Israelites that came out of Israel, Jerusalem. The other percentage are Hamites. We're Shemites. We come from Shem, not Ham. So he's clearly saying that I only came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Why? Because they was calling themselves Romans, Greeks. They didn't know the law, statutes, and commandments. The Messiah taught the Old Testament. We forgot our heritage. We didn't know. We were following what the Romans were doing and the demons that they were worshiping. We forgot the holy days. So he came to restore all of that through the 12 tribes. I'm sorry, through the 12 disciples. Salakia. And they went out to teach that. So I don't know what Sunday churches are saying under the Great Houdini. The Great Houdini gave a different doctrine and gave you a different savior. That's why we can't come out of the position that we're in. The Messiah has to come back and take us not only back to Israel, but to bring us together as one unit. That's why so many different camps. He's going to come and do it himself. That's what, when you read about him having many crowns, he's taking all nations and bringing us out of those nations. We're going to be back in Israel again as one nation. So when he came, because we were lost of the law, statutes, and commandments that was given to Moses, there was a new doctrine in the land. So the 12 disciples caught hell trying to teach, but there were those that did listen. These are the writers of this book. They were Israelites. These are the writers. When King James told the 70 elders to put this book together, the Catholic Church knew they had to do something. But in this passage here, the Messiah is clearly saying, I didn't come from you. I can't call her white. I don't know what color she was, but I know she was from the land of Canaan. And Esau had already went there and multiplied and started children over time. So eventually there were white people there growing up as Esau's descendants. Okay. Then came she and worshiped him, saying, Lord, help me. But he said, but he answered and said, it is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it to dogs. He called this lady a dog because she was not of the nation of Israel. Let me show that. I know somebody gonna think I'm lying. Right there. See if we can see it. Right there. Matthew 15. And that's 26. You can read it for yourself. And she said, truth, Lord, yet the dogs eat of the crumbs which fall from their master's table. So this lady bowed down and worshiped this brother. Okay, this is a black man with a 1975 Michael Jackson's afro. I'm being funny. Then Jesus answered and said unto her, O woman, great is thy faith, but it unto thee even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour, because she recognized who he was, and she bowed down and gave respect to the Messiah. She did what a lot of black people in Rome wouldn't do, because there were a lot of people that wouldn't follow him. And here it is, this little Canaanite woman dropped to her knees. She understood her position being outside of Israel. So her daughter was blessed. Let's go. Now we're going to go into what happened to our people and how we feel. I just cannot figure out how in the world, even after he resurrected, the only man to ever be resurrected, we still did some stupid stuff. Jeremiah 3:1-3. I mean, we was on top of the world, even physical condition. Jeremiah. They have, you remember the superheroes back in the old days? Superman, Batman, Incredible Hulk, Flash, the DC Comics. The DC Comics is based off of the Israelites. The abilities that the 12 tribes, I'm talking about the actual men themselves, not their descendants, but the actual Judah, Levi. I'm talking about the actual 12 sons of Jacob. They had the ability of what you see on DC Comics. Flash was, I want to say Manasseh. I want to say it was Manasseh, was so fast that when he ran, the flowers, I think it was lilies or something, didn't move. That's how quick he was. They got the Flash from Manasseh. Judah is where they got the Incredible Hulk from. Because Judah was such a strong black man, he could take a lion and hold him up by his neck. That's how strong Judah was. That's where they got the Incredible Hulk from. See, all that DC Comics came from those 12 sons. That's another lesson. I don't want to get too far off. Jeremiah 3:1-3. Here we go. They say, if a man put away his wife and she go from him and become another man's, shall he return unto her again? Shall not that land be greatly polluted? He's talking about a woman's body. She goes off to another man. He dropped his seed in her. When she comes back, her body is greatly polluted. But thou hast played the harlot with many lovers. Now he's pertaining that to the Hebrew Israelites. As we multiplied under David and under Solomon, we were a nation. And as a nation, this is what he's saying. We played the harlots because we were worshiping other gods. And a lot of kings were, if you read the book of Kings, a lot of them were accepting that and bringing that to us. But thou hast played the harlot with many lovers. That means other nations. Yet return again to me. So he's saying, even though you wouldn't slept with another man, I'm still willing to accept you back. How stupid was our people? Return again unto me, saith the Lord. Lift up thy eyes unto high places, and see where thou hast not been lying with. In the ways hast thou sat for them as the Arabian in the wilderness, and thou hast polluted the land with thy whoredoms. You see how our people acted? We were getting involved with other nations' gods and rituals that they were doing, and with thy wickedness. This is what Solomon was doing with that old 8-pointed star that they put on the ground, put candles around and summer up demons, and they would sacrifice children. Don't you know they still sacrifice children to this day on holidays? Christmas is one, Easter is one, and Thanksgiving. These are holidays where they still sacrifice children. Christmas is a major one. And with thy wickedness. Therefore, the showers have been withheld, and there has been no latter rain, and thou hast a whore's forehead, and thou refusest to be ashamed, worshiping other gods. You know good and well, our people knew what was given to us in the wilderness. And when we started going astray, worshiping other gods, there was no shame. They didn't care of going into child sacrifice. The only thing that was to be sacrificed was a lamb under the nation of Israel until the Messiah came. Other nations were sacrificing children. See, they got that from us, the Hebrews. They used children, we use a lamb. Has a whore's forehead, thou refusest to be ashamed. Wilt thou not from this time cry unto me, my father? Thou art the guide of my youth. Ask him, you won't even say that. Thou art the guide of my youth. Jeremiah. 1 Corinthians 10 and 20. I'm showing you the race he created, the nation he created. I'm showing you how we fell. Then when we fell, we started worshiping other gods. Out of them gods that we kept worshiping, eventually they gave us the Great Houdini. But they got us by having us worshiping the different gods in Rome and in Greece. We were slaves in Greece as well. So eventually they gave us a savior after the Messiah was crucified. So when the Messiah was crucified, they had to duplicate that and gave us the Great Houdini. But they did it while they beat us and had us in slavery. Okay? 1 Corinthians 10 and 20. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, here we go, they sacrifice to devils, you see, and not to God. This is what upset the Most High with our people. That's why he said we had a whore's forehead, because we were sacrificing to devils and not to God. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. Still, he was trying to tell our people to stop. Stop fellowshipping with them people. Even today, 2021, the Bible says, come out of her, my people. Stop doing what they do. Hell, I had to stop once I woke up. Stop the pork. Stop the shellfish, the certain seafood. Stop that damn bungee jumping and all the crazy stuff that they do. You have to stop it. And when he says, come back to me, that's the same as saying, come talk to me. Come back to me. Come back to the law, statutes, and commandments and talk to me. That's basically what he's saying. Even to today. Now look at this timeline that I went all the way back. Now I'm in 2021. And we still, what does it say? Sacrifice to demons. Every Christmas, Easter, New Year's, Thanksgiving, Halloween. That's why it's nothing new under the sun. What we do today, they did back then. Nothing new under the sun. And the Most High is still saying, ye shall have, I would not that ye shall have fellowship with devils. You're doing what they do. How did this happen? The Great Houdini. That's why you worshiping the wrong God. And I'm going to talk about a particular video of what happens when you worship the wrong God. You still, you got your pedophilia, you got all your, I'm talking about today now, you have with transgenders. Now you have transgenders in government. You have transgenders in entertainment. Some of them are athletes. You just don't know it. And now they're coming up with cloning. Now, when you clone, you are playing God. And in order to clone anyone, you have to change the DNA. You have to change that person's DNA. When they make a clone, a duplicate copy of you, you're actually playing God, because that particular clone has no soul. So when your DNA is changed, you become a AI, which is an artificial intelligence. Your DNA has to be changed for that. And the only way you can do that is if you wake up in the morning and drink your cookies and milk. This is how you change, you get your DNA changed. You have to drink the cookies and milk. Eventually, your insides are going to be so different than what the Most High gave us. That's why in Revelation 14, he was telling me don't take, not taking that mark of the beast. And what'll happen if we do? Let me keep going. 21. Ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. Ye cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils. You're going to have to choose, because this is talking to us today. Who you are going to worship. The Great Houdini got us inside of a matrix. Have a lot of people inside of a matrix. The matrix is nothing more than Christianity and Islam. That was created when they took this Bible and started changing things to where it sounds like it's for the world and not the Israelites, like the statue of King Nebuchadnezzar had. The whole statue. Now, Christians can tell you which kingdom it represents, but they'll never tell you it was for the Israelites would be slaves under these kingdoms if they don't listen to me. And it started with Babylon, King Nebuchadnezzar. That's what David told Nebuchadnezzar. This statue, this head is you. The purpose was there was throughout that whole statue of man, each kingdom would rule. And if we didn't listen, which we didn't, we would be slaves under every nation, even the feet, the broken feet. We would be slaves unto this day. The only thing that can bring us together is, one, you need to wake up, understand your identity. You're a Hebrew Israelite. And two, you just gonna have to wait for the Messiah, because we're never going to come together as Hebrew Israelite. If we stood up, the governments would act a fool. That's why there's a depopulation going. They trying to stop the spread of the Great Awakening. If all of us Israelites, we're all in the South Pacific, was to come together, we can put a stop. We can make the world stop, just like they did last year. They made the world come to a stop. But it was a reason that they did it. Not because we're waking up. It's because it was spreading worldwide. So there are people waking up in other countries that those people over there, I got to be careful. Those people over in a particular land have lied for years. I gotta watch what they say, or else they'll block the doggone video. Okay, you should know what I'm talking about. The last name is Ish. Do it like that. The last name is Ish. Them people coming to shame. That's why there's no peace over there, because they know that land does not belong to them. Let's go see it, Jeremiah. Go back to Jeremiah 3. Let's go back to Jeremiah 3, 6 through 11. Okay. The Lord said also unto me in the days of Josiah the king, hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel has done? This is talking about our ancestors, how stupid we were as a race. We just, our people, for some reason, when we saw what the other nations were doing and the kings were okaying it, it just started spreading like a disease. Our people couldn't stop. Hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel has done? Now this is the Lord, this is the Messiah talking. She is gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there has played the harlot. That's a whore. But in this sense, played the harlot, you're worshiping other gods, like I said in the other chapter. And I said, after she had done all these things, turn thou unto me. The Most High still saying, come back to me. Just like if a man's wife went to another man, he's forgiven her over and over and over, but she refused to be the wife to him. Even though she's married to him, she refused to be that wife, because the marriage ceremony was the covenant that we made in the wilderness. That covenant was made through blood, through the lamb's blood. That was the covenant that we made in the wilderness with the Most High. So the laws, statutes, and commandments can never be done away with. Now watch this. But she returned not, and her treacherous sister Judah, that's us, Negroes, saw it. And I saw, now let me clarify this. When I said Israel earlier, that's the northern 10 tribes. Now it's saying, and her treacherous sister Judah and Benjamin, because we were the ones left in Rome. And I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, the northern 10 tribes, I have put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Now, there's a problem here, because earlier in verse 6, it says, hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel has done? Is that all 12 tribes? Because if it was all 12 tribes, why is verse 7 saying, and after she had done these things, turn thou unto me, but she returned not, and her treacherous sister Judah. So if it's talking about Judah in verse 7, Judah and Benjamin, then Israel in this sense is talking about the northern 10 tribes. So when you come down to 8, and I saw, when for all the causes her backsliding Israel committed adultery, he's given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not. So is he divorcing all 12 or the northern 10? It's kind of confusing in verse 8. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also. So in this verse, the northern 10 tribes was sent into slavery in 721 BC. Okay, they were sent when they were sent into slavery. Over time, eventually, they came over to the Americas, all in the South Pacific. Okay, that's in the in the Apocrypha. But since Benjamin and Judah was the last two, it's just saying Judah didn't care. She went and played the harlot also. And it came to pass through the likeness of her whoredom that she defiled the land, that's Jerusalem, and committed adultery with stones and with stocks. And yet for all this, her treacherous sister Judah hath not turned unto me. This is our people. With her whole heart, but finally said the Lord. And the Lord said unto me, the backsliding Israel has justified herself more than treacherous Judah. You see how hard-headed we were? This is why we in this condition. Think about the 50s and the 60s and what was happening to black people after slavery. We were never free, and we would never be equal. Now, since things have changed, and now with all this transgender mess, you might be equal, but look at what you're equal to. See, we toward the end now. The book of Revelation is almost over. So it's just like Esau driving the ship, and all of a sudden we want to take over. As soon as Esau see the ship getting ready to hit a barge, he move out the way and say, "Okay, y'all can take over now." So yeah, you think you equal, but we'll never be equal to Esau. And the Lord said unto me, the backsliding Israel has justified herself more than treacherous Judah. Go and proclaim these words toward the north, and say, return thou backsliding Israel, saith the Lord, and I will not cause my anger to fall upon you. For I am merciful, saith the Lord, and I will not keep anger forever. Now he's asking Israel to come back. He gave her a divorce in verse 8. We're in 12. And he's still saying, and I will not cause my anger. I won't get upset if you come back to the law, statutes, and commandments. Now listen to this. A man and his wife have a son. The man loves his wife so much, she goes out horn around. Finally, he has enough. And he tells the woman to get out of his face. A lot of that relationships are like that now, even vice versa. But in this case, he tells her to go, get out of my house, and I'm done with you. Bill of divorce. After a short time, the son stays with the dad. The dad tells the son, hey, son, go out there and get that woman, bring her ass in here. Tell her to come here. Go get her. This is what the Messiah did when he came back and was in Rome, and he told the Canaanite girl, I didn't come for you. I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Think about that scenario. Hey, son, go tell that old woman to get in here. Tell her to come here. I can't think of a better way to put it to understand this, because he divorced Israel in 8, and in 12, he's begging her to come back. But we still, that's why the children get punished, like a generational curse. Now, I don't think when the Messiah comes back, Esau's descendants is not going to get dealt with because of what their foreparents did to us. because they are reaping the benefit for what their ancestors did. They still on top. They still refuse to tell us who we are. So they are going to get dealt with when the Messiah comes back. He's not coming back to shake hands. Now, I've shown you how stupid we were as a nation of people, who we were, and how we started worshiping other gods. These are the curses that follow. The book of Deuteronomy 28 and 15. Curses came with not listening. He begged and begged and begged, and we wouldn't do it. Deuteronomy 28 and 15. Because we wouldn't listen, treacherous sister Judah, Negroes, Deuteronomy 28 and 15, listen. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I commanded thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Now, there are a lot of curses here, from 16 all the way to 45, 60, 68. You can read them, and we fit every last one of them. Not just us, Mexicans too, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, all that's Israel, parts of Hawaii, Fiji Island. We're all over because he spread us out into the world. Deuteronomy 28 and 46. Let's go to 46 now, because we in the curses now. This is I'm trying to show you that we are not African American. There's no such thing as African American. Let me get this. I'll show you. There's no such thing as African American. I want to show you what you're calling yourself. If I can find it. Show you what you're calling yourself. That's part of the Great Houdini. No, it's in here. There you go. This is what you're calling yourself when you say you're African American. Okay? These were slave owners. Okay? These were slave owners. One took over Africa. The other one came to America, took over. One was a Roman general and one was an Italian explorer. Leo Scipio Africanus and Americana Vespucci. Both of these devils owned slaves. So they took us, if we were slaves in one land, came from one land to another land and became slaves. They took the name from these two demons and called us African Americans. That's what you're calling yourself, especially those with your big time degrees, proud to be African American, like the football player, LaDainian Tomlinson. How stupid can you be? Proud that his great grandfather took up the name Tomlinson. Do you know how they beat him to give up his Hebrew name? I lost all respect for LaDainian Tomlinson, and I sure hope he see this video. Read your history, not the black history that was given to us that goes no further than Africa. Read your biblical history. I'm reading some of it now in the book of Deuteronomy. So you will understand that you said something that was so stupid that made no sense at all. Your great, 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 great grandfather was in the belly of them ships with throw up and poo poo all on him. These are the ones that survived to get over here. Millions didn't survive and were thrown overboard for shark bait. And you make a stupid, dumb statement like that. LaDainian Tomlinson. I hope a hurricane hit the Hall of Fame, and the only statue to break is his. We went into these curses because of what I read earlier. We never would turn back. 28:46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. That's the curses, Deuteronomy 28. What we going through with all this police shooting, I think a lot of it was a stage, but the ones that are not, what we went through in the 60s. Don't let these shootings forget what we went through in the 60s and the 50s, because a lot of them older people, they are getting rid of with the cookies and milk. That's where your history is. Don't forget what happened to us in the past, because this is saying because of what happened to us, not only in Rome, after Rome, when he was pulled out of Africa, all of the atrocities that was done to us, it was done. So it will be a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So are we ever going to come out of these conditions? Only individually your life can get better when you wake up and understand who the Great Houdini is. You've been tricked. You've been bamboozled. And you understand your identity and come back to the Father and talk to him. You can be a part of one of these camps. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't let no camp tell you you can't talk to your Father without going through them, or you have to be with a group all the time. You can have a personal relationship with a higher. Once you understand your identity, I do it all the time. And the Most Higher rearranged my whole life. I mean, took this house and not only blessed it, but the demons that was in here is gone. I'm free of a demon that I was tied to. Went back to Germany. Hey, I'm dedicated to the Most High. And that's it. I don't care about anything else. I have to work because I got to eat. I got to feed my belly. Other than that, I don't do the things I used to do. I got 2 brothers that I rely on. And the Most High sent them brothers to my aid. And we're called the 3 Hebrew boys. He sent them 2 brothers to my aid. And it's been a while back. So I don't get involved in no mess. Don't go to the places I used to go to. I'm really just to myself. Now there are some times, because it's just me, I'll go somewhere just to hear some old timers talk. I'm getting older now. But the things I used to do is when I became a Hebrew and the Most High cleaned this house up, hey, I told them to put me on the front line. And that's why I'm doing my own videos. Eventually, you're not going to see a lot of us trying to wake you up out of this matrix because Google and YouTube, they are really watching these videos and watching what we say. That's why I got to be careful. That's why I'm doing the video over again. Because I think I was just raw. And I really think it was the video that I showed of Lil Nas X. I started calling him out his name, but I got to be careful. I got to be careful. It's a wonderful thing to know that a God out of all the nations chose you to be special and say you are the only one I've dealt with. I'm talking about as a nation, but you can point to yourself. Whatever Christianity has under the Great Houdini, it's nothing but vain lies. Let me keep going. Deuteronomy 28:32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thy eyes shall look and fail with longing. I kind of mentioned this earlier. When they put us on slave ships out of Africa, you had several ships. A bunch of ships came in and out. And they would take the children from the adults and have them on a separate ship. And the adults would be on another ship. Some ships had just men. Then some had men and women. Okay? And think about the sadness when they take them children out of that woman's hand, or take the father from his family and beat him and chain him down. Think about the thought, the mentality that our people must have went through. You talk about rock bottom. You feel less than a cockroach, what they did to us. So verse 32, who fits that? Now this is talking to the Israelites, Hebrews, saying that this was going to happen before it even happened. So you still calling yourself African American? White folks didn't go through this. Asians didn't go through this. Saudi Arabians didn't go through this. This happened to Negroes. It happened to the tribe of Judah. It happened to some of the northern 10 tribes, but not near as bad as coming out of Africa, Judah, and Benjamin. Those are the Jamaicans in Jamaica. The northern 10 tribe, the Most High guided them. Let me get that. Let me try to find that in the Apocrypha. I think that's, it's going to be hard to find out. See if I can find that. He guided them. I want to find it so you can see what happened to the northern 10 tribe and what happened to the I know it's in here. Let me go to second Ezra. I want you to see what happened and what happens to us. Here we go. Second Ezra 13 and 40. This is out of the Apocrypha. Okay. The Apocrypha is part of the Bible. The Apocrypha was in the Bible. When the Black King James died, this was one of the books that they took out. This is the 1611, okay, Bible. I'll show you. There we go. Can you see where it says right here, Old Testament, Apocrypha, New Testament. So the Apocrypha is a legit book. A lot of books are legit because our people wrote them. We were special people. Let me read the Northern 10 tribes. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are in the 10 tribes, which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria. See, they went into slavery in Assyria. Benjamin and Judah was still left. We didn't go to Assyria. The northern 10 tribes went into slavery. We were still in Jerusalem. Whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. Okay, this is how you see all these black folks all in the South Pacific, Mexico, all down in there, Brazil, Honduras, all of that. This is how they got there. The Native Americans, Indians from in this country, which was the Gadites, and Issachar, you Mexicans, all those Indian tribes. There's no such thing as an Indian tribe because Indian means savage. You had your names, Gad, Issachar, what's another one? Issachar, Simeon, Reuben, all of those. I got them back there on the wall. Anyway, but they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, people outside of their nation, outside of Israel, other nations. Leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might keep their statutes. That's the law, statutes, and commandments that was given to Moses, showing you that these people were Israelites. They were Hebrews, that they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. So when they were in Israel and they started worshiping other gods, when they went into slavery in Syria, they decided to take these ships. The Most High gave them that thought and go somewhere in the land where they can go back to the laws that was given to Moses in the wilderness. Okay. But they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them. See, the Most High guided them. He guided the boat, and he held the flood till they were passed over. Now watch how long he kept the seas still. There were no strong waves, no nothing. Watch how long he kept that. For through the country there was a great way to go, namely for a year and a half. And the same region is called Atheris. Atheris, that's where we are now. All of this area, the South Pacific, there were no people there after the flood. There were no people there. It was called Atheris, where never mankind dwelt. And that's how they started coming to the Americas, Mexico. It's what it's named now, but back then it was Atheris. Then dwelt they there until the latter time. and now when they shall begin to come. But after a while, they didn't keep the commandments. They started worshiping gods like in the trees and the birds and stuff like that. They started going off. So the Most High sent Esau like an eagle over, and that's where you hear the story of what happened with the English settlers coming here, and how the Native Americans helped them in Plymouth, on Plymouth Rock, how they landed and showed them everything. They eventually started killing off villages and started taking the land. Slowly take. This is how Esau got this land. They stole it. But before then, the northern 10 tribes that were in this land were not keeping the laws. They were not keeping that what was given to Moses. They started going off. So a lot of them left and went south, which is what you see Mexico. Okay, that's Issachar. A lot of them tribes, over time, as they multiplied, they started moving and they started spreading out across this country. Then came Christopher Columbus, as quick as the eagle flieth, according to scripture. That's the northern 10 tribes. So we are 32. Okay. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thy eyes shall look and warn with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand. It means you won't be able to get yourself out of the conditions that we were in. This is just too easy. This is too simple to understand that Houdini have done a major trick on us, really the world, but have done a major trick, the Great Houdini, and got us not only worshiping other gods, but we won't even go into the Old Testament because he know we will find ourselves. Let me keep going. 28 and 64. 60. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people. Like I explained earlier, he scatters around across the globe from one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods. Thou shalt serve other gods. You call them the Great Houdini. That's the matrix. This is your matrix because you're serving other gods. That's why I'm talking about you Christians. That's why you can't see. You're worshiping other gods. You in a matrix. The Great Houdini has done a hell of a trick. And a lot of us are coming out of it now, and a lot of you are still stuck in it. Which neither thy fathers have known. Our fathers knew nothing about the Great Houdini and the teachings that come under Catholicism. They knew nothing of Christmas and Easter, the Easter Bunny, Thanksgiving. They were under other names at that time. That's the name that y'all celebrate them today. Which thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. That's Christianity and Islam. Stone is Islam, the stone that they worship. And wood is Christianity. 64. Okay, now. Now we finna find out who is this Great Houdini. We finna see the Great Houdini's lifestyle. First off, I want to read, because I said to you earlier that your God name is Ahia. In Exodus 3, Moses was talking to the Most High, asking him, who should I say sent me? Okay. Exodus 3 and 14. And God said unto Moses, 13. And Moses said unto God, even when I come unto the children of Israel and shall say unto them, the God of your father has sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, what is his name? What shall I say unto them? He's asking the Most High. And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. Now we know God didn't speak English. So you got to find out what word was there before there was I am that I am. This is where this book comes in. Okay? Let's see if I can see that. Now, out of this book, I'm going to read the exact same verse, Exodus 3. And Moses said unto Elohim, that's what that's God. Elohim is like a position of a God. It's not his name. Elohim is God, or you can say gods with an S. That's what they were, Elohim. Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, Yasharallah is the real name, because it wasn't spelled Israel. It was Yasharallah. But for this sake, I say Israel. When I come unto the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, the Yasha one of your fathers, Yasha, the God of your fathers, has sent me unto you. And they shall say to me, what is his name? What shall I say unto them? And Elohim, that's God, or the Most High. I like to use the word the Most High, because God is a Greek word. Spell God, then spell it backwards. That was their protection in Greece. That's where the word God come from, Greece. They call him the Most High. And that's what I like to make myself get used to. But Elohim said unto Moses, Ahia, Shaw, Ahia, or I am that I am. Now, I'm going to try my best to let you see if you can see this, because the print is so small. Print right there. It's saying, I don't know. And you see right there. Just see if you can see it, because my finger's going to get in the way. Is that clear enough? You have to read it. You should be able to see a higher, showing you that his name is not Yahweh or Yahweh or Yah. Yah only means higher power. That's a title. It's not a name. Now we finna go into now we finna see. We finna see. Here's where we finna go right now. And this is going to be the end of it. This right here. The Great Houdini. Okay. Same guy. Same guy. But this book here is going to show you who the Great Houdini is. Lifestyle, what type of person he was. Then we're going to talk about a video little Nas X made. This is what happens when you follow the Great Houdini. Let me start with the Apocrypha, because I want to show you that this was done on purpose. This was done on purpose. What was it? Wisdom of Solomon 14. Wisdom of Solomon 14. This was done on purpose. The creation of the Great Houdini. Wisdom of Solomon 14. (8 through 16). But that which is made with hands is cursed, and as well it as he that made it. He because he made it, and it because being corruptible, it was called God. The idea uh, of making someone so evil to be worshipped, it was called God. For the ungodly and his ungodliness are both alike hateful unto God. We finna see that this is talking about the great Houdini, but we've right now is going into his father. The whole doggone family is all effed up. The great Houdini, his brother, his sister Lucretia, Pope Alexander VI, the father, Rodrigo Bogier. The great Houdini original name is Cedric Bogier. But we're going to stick with the great Houdini so they won't block the video. For the ungodly and his ungodliness are both alike hateful and unto God. For that which is made shall be punished together with him that made it. Therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation, because in the creature of God they are become an abomination and stumbling blocks to the souls of men. That's the idea of worshiping this great Houdini, giving him someone to worship because of fear. He had so much fear in that land, in the land where he lived. And stumbling blocks to the souls of men, and a snare to the feet of the unwise. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spirituality. This was under Catholicism. Idolatry. It's nothing but idols in the Vatican. The whole idea of Catholicism is what this is talking about. For the dividing of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them, the corruption of life. For neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever. For by the vainglory of men they entered into the world, and therefore shall they come shortly to an end. For a father afflicted with untimely mourning, Pope Alexander VI, Rodrigo Bogier, when he has made an image of his son, of his child, soon taken away, now honored him as a god. That's the great Houdini. That's the creation of the great Houdini to be worshipped. And we were beaten. We weren't even allowed to read the Bible. Because if we dumb down, we naturally you're going to believe whatever master told you because you didn't know how to read. You see? After they killed off King James and started changing things, then we go into slavery in 1492. And they fed us our own book according to them, the way they see it. Remember Psalms 83, that they would come together and make us not remember who we were, that Israel would be no more. Okay? For a father afflicted with untimely mourning, when he hath made an image of his child, soon taken away, now honored him as a god, which was then a dead man. Who made the image was Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci and the great Houdini was lovers. Oh, it's more, it's a lot more. And delivered to those that were under him ceremonies and sacrifices. See? That's in the Apocrypha. But I just read to you. Right there. See? Child soon taken away. You won't think I'm lying to you. Now let's get into the book. Let's get into the book. Trip Type to Poison. Start with page 13, 1, 2, and 3. It is not important to state the exact age when Cedra became his sister's lover. Remember, Houdini is Cedric Bourgier. Okay? It is not important to state the exact age when Cedra became his sister's lover. This dude was having sex with his own sister, Lucretia. Can you imagine all the all Negro women naming their child Lucretia and have no idea where that name come from? His sister's lover made the wife of one of his brothers his mistress. So he was having sex with his sister-in-law. Or murdered another brother. It is only relevant to say that he committed these acts, for it was such that made of him one of the most cruel, lascivious, and unnatural men who ever lived. That's the great Houdini. The same guy I just read to you out of the Apocrypha. Okay, now we're getting into the life of Cedric Bourgier, the great Houdini. When he looked at another people, it is as though he turned the telescope round to do so. He saw the people about him as midgets, less, no more than gnats or moths to be crushed to death. Or, in other words, he always looked down at everybody. No one was greater than him. He was the illegitimate son of Rodrigo Bourgier, Pope Alexander VI, at the time of Caesar's birth, a cardinal and a latter to become Pope Alexander VI. Page 18 and 4. Cedra's sister Lucretia was born on 18 April 1480. Okay. Pay attention to that name, Lucretia. 1905 and 6. The two boys appear to have been somewhat abnormally interested in their pretty little sister. That's Cedric Bourgier and his brother. Lucretia had the appearance of one who begged to be dominated. Pretty much like when you see women on the streets or at these strip places, how they have that look, wanting a man to dominate and just take them and take over. This is the look that she was giving her own brothers. 22, 6, and 7. So in those early days of their precious childhood, in that unhealthy, forcing house of passionate emotion, the two boys courted their sister. Read that again. The two boys courted their sisters. So they had fun with this girl. This girl wasn't, I think, 12 years old. She was only like 12 years old. She was real young. And the father also had a piece of her as she was coming up as a teenager. But they started with her real young, begging her favors, kissing her and embracing her, loving her. Lucretia would have been superhuman if she could have refrained from taking advantage of this state of affairs. She did not wish to. She let them sue for her favors, always hoping that she would be able to accept Cedra as the winner. Cedric Bourgier is the great Houdini. She evidently saw in Cedra the embodiment embodiment of all masculinity, all charm. Juan, that's Cedro's brother. Juan too she loved. So she having sex with both of them. Certainly she loved him. He was handsome and a Borgia. That's Rodrigo Borgia. That was his last name. But Cedra dominated the nursery and the house. He was the favorite of Venosa. Venosa is his mother. He was the beloved of Lucretia, and he was determined to oust Juan, which is his brother, from the place he held in the cardinal's affections and occupy it himself. They came to understand why their uncle visited their mother, and they began to realize that their uncle was indeed their father. So Rodrigo Borgia was really not Cedro Borgia's father. His brother was having sex with his brother's wife. That's how Cedro Borgia became. So watch what happened as I read what Rodrigo does. But the uncle is actually the real father of the great Houdini. It was a whole lot of incest going on. A whole lot of incest. I'm going to show you who else was having sex with Venosa, his mother. 22. All this is who you worshiping, the great Houdini. 47:21. Let's go to page 47. I'm on page 22. Page 30, 8 and 9. Page 30. When he returned from Rome, he lived in the Borgia, close to his sister's home. He visited her frequently, and Lucretia felt the power of that spell which he had always cast over her. It is said that Cedra loved two people only, his mother, Venosa, and his sister. So this freak was having sex with his own mother. It may have been that Cedra loved these two because they gave him that unquestioning devotion and submission which he sought from the rest of the world. What mother is submissive to her own son? You see how sick this family is? This is the great Houdini. This is who they replaced, that black brother with the 1975 Michael Jackson afro. That's why we can't get out of the position that we're in, because we're worshiping the wrong God. You calling on the wrong Lord. 9:30. This was scandalous enough, but there was another rumor in the streets of Rome. Cedra was often seen in the company of his sister. He was observed visiting her. They openly behaved like lovers, and there were spies to report that they spent nights together. It was said that Cedra Borgia was determined that his sister should be his mistress before she was the bride of any man. He wanted to have sex with his sister before she got married to anybody else. That happened in slavery. When one of the slave men got married, who had first take? Massa. This is where they got that from. You see, all of that is when Esau went to the land of Canaan. That's their bloodline. That's the way they act. Come out of her, my people. They do some freaky, they always done some freaky shit and still do. I wouldn't be surprised what's going over there in England, but I better be careful because they won't show the video. Cedra, without doubt, was the most important person in Lucretia's life at this time, as he probably was until his death. Cedra set the pace, and Lucretia followed. And this girl got married 3 times. One husband he ran off. The other second husband, Cedra murdered. 30, 31. Let's go to 33 and 11. People without power behind them could disappear suddenly, and no questions would be asked. Sisera had his band of assassins, and any who defied him must either escape from his venom, or it might be that one day they would be set upon by ruffians in the street, what we call gang people, stabbed and left to die. Some might be tied in sacks and thrown into the Tiber River. That's in Rome. This is showing you the ideas that the Great Houdini, the things that he did. This is how he murdered people. A murderer. There was another method of disposing of enemies, and this was by poison. Now, when it says enemies, this was anybody that didn't give submission to Cesar Borgia was considered an enemy. So don't think enemy as in another nation going against their nation. Cesar found this a more satisfying method than any other. It could be easily administered at this table. He himself could watch its being done. He could lift his goblet, drink with the man, and know that before the night was over, that man would be dead. The sense of power such action brought to him was an intoxication. So when he poisoned somebody, the next day they would look at it as though the guy drunk too much. Many secret poisons was known to him, for they had been brought to Spain by the Moors. The Moors were black Israelites. These secrets had been preserved for centuries and were known only to his family. Cesar craved power over his fellow men and women, power over life and death. See how sick this is, the Great Houdini, what I just showed you. That's who you really worshiping as your savior. That's the Great Houdini. 33, 47, 21. Venosa had decided to give a supper party. It was June and hot. Therefore, she did not give the party in her Rome residence, but in her vineyard, which was outside in the backyard, which was between the churches of San Martiana, I Mati, and Santa Lucia in Celsi. There were other guests besides Venosa's two sons. Remember, Venosa is his mother. But it was an intimate party. Okay? This is an intimate party, incest. How proud Venosa must have been. Juan, that's his brother, a great soldier and a Spanish duke. If you go back in history and read about the dukes, that's Amalek. That's that bloodline, the Amalek bloodline. Dukes and queens, dukes, queens, whatever they call themselves in England, that's Amalek's bloodline. Oh, and Obama's bloodline also leaks back to Amalek. Obama is not a Shemite, he's a Hamite. On his mother's side, it goes to Amalek's bloodline. That's how they know what black person to select. They were very selective. There's no elected president. They're always selected through the Illuminati. Always been that way. But when you don't know, they tell you anything and you'll believe it. Cesar, a great cardinal and a destined to be the Holy Father himself. It was true that there were rumors in the city regarding these sons of hers. Cedric inspired fear wherever he went, but she doubtingly believed that was a sign of his greatness. There would be many to envy her Cesar. There was one more handsome, perhaps, than Cesar, but in her fond eyes, more conventionally so. He was great, her Juan, but Cesar was the greatest man in Italy. Remember, Cedra is the great Houdini, and she would be rich. She would be ready to swear in the whole world. It was said that no beautiful young woman or young men were safe once Juan had cast his eyes upon them. But back up, because I think you missed it. It was said that no beautiful young women or men, him and his brother was gay. Women or young men were safe once Juan, Caesar's brother, had his eyes upon them. And that when Juan said, "Come hither," to Juan they must go or suffer the consequences of insulting the Borgia dignity. What kind of dignity does that family have with all of that incest? They had any man or any woman they wanted. And Leonardo da Vinci and Cesare Borgia got it on. That's who did the drawing that you see. That drawing, that face and that cross, that was Leonardo da Vinci. To Venosa, this seemed exactly as it should be. The two most powerful men under his holiness. They called him Rodrigo Holy, were her two sons. How are they holy with all this incest? All this is satanic. Everything they're doing is satanic. 21, 22. When they took leave of their mother and stepfather and a few guests who had made up the company, a masked figure appeared in the vineyard and asked solely for the Duke of Gandia. Juan greeted this masked person with pleasure. All present believed it was his newest lover. Now, this is a guy now. This is a guy that appeared in the vineyard. The newest lover, and sex of whom was as yet unknown. So he haven't had this man yet. For Juan had been seen in the streets of Rome in the last weeks, accompanied by a masked person to whom he seemed devoted. Now, even though it's saying person, you would see that it was a man. The brothers said their farewells to Venosa, that's their mother, and her husband, and left. The masked figure riding pillion with Juan. I think they both on the same horse. Either brother was surrounded by his attendants. That's men. They had surrounding members that always protected Cesra and Juan. But when they reached the Ponte district, Juan announced that he was leaving the rest of them at that spot. He and his masked friend would ride off with one groom only in attendance. His attendants begged to be allowed to go with him. They said the hour was late and the district was not a safe one to be alone in at this hour. Juan shrugged them aside, and of course, none dared disobey. Cedra, with his attendants and those of his brother, continued his journey to the Vatican. Okay, so Cedra left. It seemed clear to everyone that Juan had an engagement with his masked friend. This was evidently so, for when he reached the Piazza degli, he instructed the groom to wait there for him, and if he did not return in an hour, to go home. This was the last time Juan was seen alive. He was soon missed next day, and when Pope Alexander heard the news, he was filled with alarm. Search parties were sent out, and before very many hours had passed, Juan's groom had passed. Juan's groom was found in the deserted piazza, stabbed to death. Now, this is the guy, as you know, groom is a male. This is the guy that Juan had left on horseback with, that looked at him earlier and greeted the masked person with pleasure. That particular guy, when he left with, they found him stabbed to death. Okay, watch what happened to Juan's, Cedric's brother. Juan's groom was found in the deserted piazza, stabbed to death. The Dalmatian boatman who lived in his boat, which was moored on the banks of the Tiber, then came forward and said that he had seen a man approach the river leading a white horse, over which was slung something which might have been a body. A man on horseback had given instructions as to what was to be done, and the boatman had heard him addressed as my lord. The only one they was calling my lord was Cedric Borgia, the Great Houdini. The body had been thrown into the river, and the dead man's cloak floated. Cloak, like his jacket, coat, bearing him up for a while. Then he who had been addressed as my lord, Cedric Borgia, ordered that stones be thrown at the cloak. This was done, and soon the cloak and body were seen no more. So Cedric Borgia had his guys throw bricks and stuff. I'm sure they was heavy stones at the body to make the body go down. Now the other body was already found stabbed to death. This body was in the Tiber River, and they made it sink to the bottom. This was his brother, Juan. When asked why he did not immediately report what he had seen, the boatman strung his soldiers. He declared that there was nothing very unusual in seeing a body cast in the Tiber River. The river was dragged, and Juan's body recovered. There were ducats in his purse, and no attempt had been made to wrench the jewels from his collar, so he wasn't robbed. They couldn't say he was robbed. 48. So this is the guy. This is the Great Houdini. This is the story. The book goes on and on, but I'm only reading you pieces of how evil this guy is. And when you follow this demon, you end up doing things like Lil Nas X making a video. They call me by your name, or call me by my name. In the video where he plays a gay male sliding down a pole like they do at these titty places, and he dance and swing on a pole. Now he's coming down a pole on the devil's lap, having sex with him on top. Well, they not actual sex, but they was showing the image of him riding this guy, and the devil turns him around and gets him from the back. The mindset, this same guy, Nas X, was on Sesame Street when he was younger. That's how he got founded. From Sesame Street, he went from that and made a plea with the devil. Now this is what he's doing. And he's opening the door for more gays to come out. Now I'm speaking against it because the scriptures is against it. If two male dogs will fight to the death if one mess with the other, how can two male human beings not have enough sense to know that this is wrong? This is called the hermaphrodite spirit. The hermaphrodite spirit. Don't ask me to spell it. If you look the word up, you Google it, the hermaphrodite spirit came from the giants. When the angels fell in Genesis 6, they had sex with women, they had giants, Nephilims. They had children. The hermaphrodites is a man born with genitals, male and female genitals. This is what these giants had: 2 rows of teeth, 6 fingers. It's called deformity. They were hermaphrodites. After the flood, the spirits could not go to heaven and they could not go into Hades. So the spirit of these giants had to dwell here on land. That's in the book of Enoch. I think it's the book of Enoch. Book of Enoch or the book of Jubilees, one of them. I know I read one of them. The spirits had to stay on the earth. They couldn't go up or down. So when the flood came and it killed off humanity, those spirits would stayed until after Noah. Noah's son had to ask Noah to ask the Most High if he can get rid of some of these spirits. I think it was Japheth. I think it was Japheth. Asked Noah if he can get rid of these spirits because they was causing the families to go against each other. This is these hermaphrodite spirits. The Most High told Noah that he would get rid of them except for 10%. So he left 10. The rest are in Hades. This is where you want to fear death because they are in Hades. Hades is a place reserved for the angels that fell. We were never meant to go to Hades. But since we fell off and started worshiping other gods, now we go into Hades as well. It's called judgment. There's nobody going to no doggone heaven when you die. Another Houdini trick. You go straight into judgment. And you right there where those hermaphrodite spirits, they call demons. The Most High didn't make demons. It came from the fallen spirits, the fallen gods that made the giants, the Nephilim. They gave creation to the hermaphrodites and demonic spirits. And they were not allowed to go into the heavens. So the Most High didn't create them. But the place of Hades, he did create upon creation. Now, because of our evilness, and now we at the stage where we doing things like Nas X. They got him all freaked out making this type of videos. But when I showed the video, they wouldn't allow, they blocked this, what I did last week, they blocked it. So I'm not showing it, but I can talk about it. But you can find his video on YouTube and look at it all day. Does that make any kind of sense? This freak video, sliding down a pole, having sex male to male with the devil, then he take the devil horns off and put it on his head. Going all throughout the video, he dressed in red, from head to toe. And throughout the video, it's nothing but sex scenes with another male and him with himself. You see, it makes no sense. It's getting worse. Just like the Bible said, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the end time. When you see that video, Nas X, Call Me By Your Name, think about Lot. What Lot went through and what them people tried to do to Lot when Lot brought. That when the angels came to see Lot and all of them gays wanted to get inside of Lot's house. This is where we are now. This is what I wanted to bring out. So now you know who the Great Houdini is. Not only that, there's a curse that comes with worshiping the Great Houdini. And every time you cut the TV on, that's all you hear. Another one bites the dust because the Ku Klux Klan don't have to wear sheets anymore. They got badges. They don't need the sheets. And it's always us that they target. That's the curse. That's the great Houdini. So I hope y'all have a good Sabbath today. And I'm gonna say shalom to you. And I'll see you on the next video. Don't forget to subscribe.